Hey, Marc Warnke here. So if you're watching this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through the things you need to think about for shelter. But I also want to let you know that we help people raise goats through courses and through our Goat Club membership. And I highly suggest if you're watching this and you're new to owning goats, you have a lot to learn. You need mentorship, you need courses, you need to learn how to raise goats. Constructing their shelter is a very important thing to know, but I help people to actually design that stuff, what they should be thinking of. No. So we got a ruddy buck in the pen. This goat is actually helping the rest of the does that didn't get bred to get bred, and he's just all ruddy and gross. Go on, get out here. So, oh yeah, go over to my camera lady. That's a better idea. So, sorry, there's no way to film with goats without goats messing with you because they're just loving little dudes. So I'm going to talk about shelters, but remember, I highly suggest that if you're here and you're new to goats, that you look into being a Goat Club member, getting some of the courses. You need to educate yourself. Goats are complex. Ranked by homesteaders in America as the second most difficult animal to raise. You're going to need to learn that stuff. Now no. Lesson number one, don't let goats jump up on you. This little guy, that's been his predisposition since he's young, and he'll learn not to do that. You don't want him to do it once he hits 200 pounds. So when you're thinking about shelter, you got to remember you want 3 sides and a roof. So you want to be able to block the wind, and you want to be able to have a roof. One of the reasons we went with these shelters is because they had a large roof over as well. You can see as these does bed, there are does that are dominant does that feel comfortable inside the bedding. And then there are also does that are on the perimeter, younger does, that won't be allowed in. So the worst thing I could have done is put another wall on this and a small entrance where they have to go in a small entrance. And by doing that, your dominant goat will sit on the edge and nobody will go in there. So you want to leave a big opening. So it's better to be wider at the opening than the wider you are, the more goats will use your shelter. And then the other thing is you always want to make sure you keep them dry and you keep their bedding dry. And remember, during the winter, you want to be able to have a bedding methodology that allows for composting, where you actually just put straw on top of straw. You don't want to keep cleaning it out. During the winter, you want it to develop composting and begin to compost, because the composting has an exothermic reaction, and when they dig out their beds, there's warmth that comes out of that. Will you leave her alone? Okay, so hey, no, go on. Okay, so anyway, so you want to make sure you just put bedding on top of bedding. You want to make sure you have 3 sides and a good roof. And the other thing is, you can see how I use these feeders. Now, these feeders, you can get the design for how to build them on PackGoats.com. And I highly suggest, after years of raising goats, I figured out a way where we don't have lots of waste. We don't have as many juveniles get inside of the feeders. And we have a way to eliminate waste almost totally. You can see there's still a little waste that accumulates around it, but believe me, other feeders are way more wasteful. But the other nice thing about this design is it then offers shelter for these submissive goats that don't want to go in the shelter. And what they'll do is they'll bed around the edge of this. You can see this doe over here is bedded on the edge. And that is really common. I look out here when we're in really bad weather, and what will happen is there are goats that are bedded around the feeders because they have a roof over their head and a windbreak, and they don't feel comfortable enough to go into the shelters. So having these feeders in tandem with it is really important. I go into depth in the Goat Club and the courses about how to create drainage, and that's very important. How you situate them, how you should build your shelters so that they're mobile, so you're not locked into their location until you work their farm. All kinds of different details that I go into with wintertime shelters. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope that leads you down the path of creating a safe space for you and your goats, or your goats only. And my name's Marc Warnke. I have well over a decade now of raising goats, and I help people to raise goats. And I hope you find that helpful. Marc Warnke, the Goat Guy, signing out.